All right. So now we're going to do this. And if you're watching this at home, what you need to do is now basically go to this website and then pause the tape, do the exercise, and then restart the tape. Okay, so we'll give you a chance to do the practice as if you were in class. Okay, don't cheat, otherwise you lose the usefulness of this. So go to the page, to the web page there, and do a few sample this, however many you want, until you get bored. And what it's going to do is it's going to, you click here, and it's going to play a word that you have to transcribe. Then it's going to show you the word in writing in case, and sometimes it's jarring. And we're gonna play a couple of examples so you can see, and then it will show you what the transcription in IPA was. Okay, and this is done by linguists at UC Berkeley, so we assume that they can do proper IPA transcription. Okay, so at the end of the run, this is what it will look like. So it will say currently, right? So that's the word that you have heard. This is the transcription there, and then they show it to you in context.
Currently.
Did you get it?
Yeah.
Currently.
Okay, we're supposed to be doing it, aren't they? Aren't
Yes.
they supposed to be writing it?
Yeah, you should need to transcribe it.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I didn't make myself clear. So I play the word, you transcribe it.
Then you check, yeah.
And then you check. Well, let's look at the answer here.
Zoom in.
Zoom in.
Nice.
Well, I mean, yeah, it was pretty good because I mean, you had an R, but this is the rotacism thing. I mean, I would definitely accept an R instead of the little rotacism marker here, right? I mean, this is again the like, can I be bothered to notice the difference, right? If you really want to be strict, this is the way it is. Any questions? All right.
Good. 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 Good.
You know why it's like that, right? You should tell them because they've actually taken it out of regular speech.
Right. It's from a corpus
it's not
of
somebody saying one currently, two good. They've actually pulled it exactly out.
Yeah, these are naturally occurring in speech, right?
Good. Good. Good.
Anybody wants to do it? Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Can y'all see it over here?
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Well done.
Show them the show friend.
Yeah. All right, that was it's there.
Where is it? Oh,
What good does he know?
Over. 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 Over.
Let's see what the word. Hey, it is over.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm not sure that the camera captured this, but the two professional linguists here were going like, "What the hell is that?" Okay, so yeah, this is normal. Okay, I mean, taken out of context, it's extremely difficult to discriminate. Okay, because there is so much redundancy in speech that most of the time you don't really hear it. You're reconstructing it from the context. Okay, so this is normal. All right, so anybody wants to write it up on the board? Yeah, that's more likely. Yes.
Nice. Good job.
Nice. Okay. Now, you certainly, if you're listening to yourself, a pronunciation with an open O would be perfectly to be expected. I wouldn't be surprised by that. All right?
Want, 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 want,
I think so, yeah.
Your guess is as good as
Oh.
mine.
want,
Put show word.
Yep.
Yeah. So if this was a narrow transcription, you transcribe that length. One, you'd put the vowel, and then you put a couple of little dots that mean really long vowel. But we don't need that.
Who wants to do it? Well, Juanpa, you're the only one who hasn't done it yet, so.
Oh, don't make him go up there if he doesn't.
Why? I torture my students all the time. It's kind of a trademark. Yes. Some of my students had a T-shirt. It didn't say I survived Dr. Attardo's class. It said spelling is irrelevant. In phonetic alphabet, by the way.
Yeah, for sure.
Which I thought was awesome. All right.
No.
Well, I mean, see, it depends on the vowel that you're doing.
This is narrow.
This is more narrow, yeah, because you have muon. No, because the guy in the sample here.
want,
Oh no, sorry,
It's another song.
it's another sample. Oh. All right.
Same word, but it was a different speaker.
It was a different speaker, yeah. Apparently, yes. Well, and we'll see another example of that at the end. We have another piece of software. All right.
latitude, 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 latitude.
I can't tell which word it is.
Attitude.
Attitude. Okay.
Attitude. Okay. See, I thought he said latitude.
Me too, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So what we have here. See this symbol here. Okay. That's the
Yep.
flat.
Attitude.
Oh, it's not the sh sound.
No.
Ooh.
That's here. Let me make it bigger. Yeah. No, hang on. Yeah.
It's that sign. It just goes like that. That's
It's
the-
it's similar to an R, but it's not an R. Is this little thing here, right? That's the flap. Isn't also like a capital D used sometimes?
Yes, capital D
Yeah.
is sometimes used
Yeah.
in deed.
Sometimes you see a capital D instead of this symbol, but again, it's not the IPA. IPA is this.
What about a T with a little something at the bottom? No?
No, that's usually a tap
Yeah,
Oh,
that's,
that's
rather than a flap, I think. Or yeah.
yeah, I think so. Yeah. All right, let's do one more.
Council, 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 council,
Okay, so here you've got well, it's a little bit, but the dash here should be under the L. It's the font is just coming out of it. That's your syllabic consonant. Okay. All right. So in a nutshell, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but basically what you have here is a sequence of consonants that is not acceptable within English, right? So then you take the least consonanty sound in the bunch and you turn that one into a vowel. Okay? So, and then that's indicated by putting a dash underneath the consonant that's being vocalized, that's functionally being used as a vowel. And the four sounds in English that do this are L, R, M, and N. Okay? So you'll never have a T, for example, that's turned into a vowel because T is too much of a consonant.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas nasals and liquids, yeah, they're less consonanty than stops or yeah. How was that for an explanation?
Awesome. Thank you. Any approximates, anything? Yeah.
Like fricatives as well?
No.
No. Right. Okay. So that's what because somebody mentioned syllabic.
Syllabic.
Oh yeah, and so because then this counts as a vowel, then you have can and so. These are the two syllables of the word. Okay. Otherwise, it would be one syllable counsel, and that's just not.
Well, you can also do it. Some people will put a schwa in there.
I was gonna ask you, what about
Yeah.
put it?
Yeah, how do you
You could stick a
how do
schwa
you
in
tell
there.
the difference between schwa with an L or an R and N, whatever, and syllabic?
Well,
Broad transcription, you can stick one in there or not, basically, like
I mean-
bottle or something. You can either put in schwa and a syllabic L or just a syllabic L.
Okay.
So, I mean, it for our level of concern,
Right.
it really doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
whether
can you
use either.
produce the two just so to hear the difference.
Well, I don't think that. I mean, it's
No?
like
Right.
bottle. It's the same.
Well-
It's the same. That's why people
Right.
transcribe it to. Basically, that's because this is about articulatory phonetics, right? So if you put it on a machine, you actually look at the sound of the voice. In some people's voice, there's more of a vowel-y thing than in other people's voice. So if you really want to be picky about it, you've got to get the recording, go onto the machine and say, is there a vowel-y schwa thing there? In which case you would mark that with the schwa and then the L, or is there no sign of a vowel-y schwa?
Think
there?
think of a spectrogram, right?
Yeah.
So if you were looking at the spectrogram, what you would see here is something that looks kind of vowel-y and liquidy, roughly in the same place. And so then it's up to you to
It's
decide.
So it depends. If you've got the four-man structure of a vowel, of a schwa vowel, then you'll put in a schwa, right? But if you don't, then it would just be the syllabic L.
So this would be like maybe one band or two, and an actual schwa would be more bands, more
You would
visible.
have
Yes,
three- you would have
yes.
three
And as
bands
we
here.
can't tell the difference between those things, certainly for broad transcription, it matters not at all. If you really want to get into it, you've got to put that sample on a machine and see if it's there in the acoustic signal or not. Yeah,
But again, we're not doing that.
we're not doing that.
that level of precision. But in any case,
That's going to be
I
the
would-
learner's least of your
Yeah,
your learner's least of
that's
your
the
problems.
least of your problems. So if you do it with, like this with the syllabic L, or if you do it with a schwa console, all of that will be perfectly fine. All right, one last one.
Union. Union. Union.
Oh.
Union.
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 I think so. Union.
Yeah.
All right, ready? Union. All right. Right. So I've put here the charts with all the IPA sounds, then the English consonants and vowels. That's just a repeat from the previous lecture. I just put them there if we wanted to to look at them to be available. And here's again the set of examples. Okay, now this is a software that a colleague of Dr. Pickering has developed, and it's actually quite useful. So,
Oh my.
yep.
So who remembers when Dr. Thompson came in last year? Yeah. So Ron Thompson is at Brock University. He's a phonetician at Brock in Canada. He put this together because one thing that we've found in the research for second language learners is that it looks like something called high variability training works to learn phonetic categories. So high variability training, or HVT for short, means that the more different samples you have of any given sound, the more samples that the learner has of me saying ah, or you saying ah, or you saying ah, the stronger that category becomes. Okay? So it's not that you want to hear the same person saying the same sounds over and over again. It's that you want to hear different people saying the same sounds over and over again. And that's what high variability phonetic training is. Okay? So what he then did was create this app in which he has lots and lots, hundreds of different voices doing different sounds, okay, from the English phonetic alphabet. So you can't necessarily hear because it's just like a single vowel or a single consonant. But I forget how many he says he has, like 700 or 800 of each thing. So as soon as a learner plays these games, works on these programs, they're going to be listening to all these things. So this is not a production app. It's a perception app, meaning that what it does with learners is help them see if they can perceive the vowel or consonant. It doesn't necessarily help them do, I mean, you could sort of do an imitate and repeat after the vowel, but that's not what it's designed for. What it's designed for is to say, can you correctly guess which vowel that was or which consonant that was when it's given by a number of different speakers. Okay? It's great fun to play, although we were trying it earlier and we weren't doing very well.
Is it on the...
Notice, well, before you do,
Oh, sorry.
notice how crap the US are at doing vowels, right? So this is the average score by country, okay? So the top score is the US at only 85%. Why is that? Why is that? Why does that make sense? That even American speakers are not 100%.
Variation.
Good, because there are so many dialects across America, and then across, you know, high variability training would include, you know, Jason's accent, my accent, your accent, that vowels are a really tricky little number, okay? So, for example, Jason and I have a vowel right down at the bottom for far, which is the middle. If you go back to the vowel sheet, it's the middle down here. But Americans say
There.
fa, fa, fa.
It's,
How do you
it's,
say
it's this one, right?
fa? Yes, good, yes. So we say far. You guys don't even have. You guys don't even have like an R vowel, right? So we say park, far. You say park.
That's Midwestern. My favorite one is Midwestern or Chicago.
Yeah,
Chicago. I lived in Arkansas where that ah sound is I.
Right,
Ah.
right. Now think of some poor soul from Georgia where they don't distinguish between it and eh, right? So pin and pin.
Pin.
Yeah. So
Pin.
P-I-N, pin, and P-E-N, pen are pronounced pin and pin. Yeah. So, and in fact, I will tell you a little story about that, and then we'll move on and I'll get to your question, Jason. I had a Great Pyrenees, which some of you don't know is a dog. It's about 200 pounds. And it one day came busting out of my screen door and went straight for the mailman. And it knocked the mailman to the ground, and glasses went flying, and the dog just stood on top of him. It was very stressful, I would add. And he tore his trousers. Thank God he didn't draw blood. So the mailman's lying on the ground screaming, "Can't find my glasses and give me a pen." You know, so I'm like, oh my God, he wants to write down. So I run into the house, I get a piece of paper and a pen. And so he can write down, you know. And he looks at me and he's like, "No, a pen. And I'm like, oh, he means a pin to like pin up this stuff in his trousers. So, yeah, it was all very stressful. And in the middle of all this giant stress, we had this serious moment with dialectal vowels. Jason.
I was going to say that there's some dialects in you were saying. What dialects are they trying to run this game?
For in the accent coach. Well, he keeps it fairly standard, but he's got them from multiple different places. I mean, he's not going to do like you know, with that nasal. I don't think he has a sample of that, but he'll take vowels. That's what high variability training. Now, intense high variability training would be, you know, chucking in a bit of East Texas or a bit of, you know, but for most learners, we wouldn't bother with that anyway unless they were there. Yeah. So you wouldn't bother with the Packika Boston vowel unless your learners had to deal with it every single day. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, so the game. Okay, we can go back to the game. We all screwed up earlier on, which is why I was delighted to see that only 85% of Americans could get the vowel right, because you got more wrong.
It's already ready in the Chrome bar.
Oh,
sorry.
Chrome, sorry.
All right, so let's do play consonants. Oh, I can't get in.
Just try to guess.
Here's this.
Huh?
To the right.
Oh, tries guessed. Okay, so let's do all right. Okay.
The.
Which one?
Second.
The.
Again.
Thaw.
First one.
Ja.
Third one.
Tha.
First one.
Cha.
Fourth.
Jaw.
Cha.
Oh,
The.
great.
Tha.
The.
All right, stop. Okay, so you get the general idea, right? Right. So, cheeky. So you get the general idea. Now, you guys were excellent, of course, because you're all either native or near native. But you can see why beginner learners or low intermediate learners would get half of those wrong too fast. You know, it's coming up too fast, and So let's try and play something else.
Oh.
Oh yes, let's have fun with vowels. Fun with vowels. Well, because we were so bad at it, let's do the four corners. All right, we'll do those four.
You made it too easy.
Hey.
He. Who? Hey.
The other one.
Other.
He.
Top right.
Hey.
One down.
He.
Okay, so you can stop. So I don't know if you noticed, but there were two heys by two different speakers. So there were two female speakers, both of whom said hey, but both were two different. That's what we mean by high variability training. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily every time you utter a sound or a string of sounds, it's acoustically different from the time that somebody else uttered it or that you uttered it last time, which is why voice prints are so bad and impossible to get correct. Because you never say the same thing twice, because it depends on context and it depends on a whole range of your voice quality issues. And each person, essentially what you can imagine is that there's a vowel category, right? And so there's a category of E, right? My E and your E are not going to be the same. But the idea is that the learner can distinguish that from the category that's E, right? And that's what you're trying to get them to do. You're not trying to get them to perfect a certain way of saying E so much as being able to say E and it are two different things, right? And if you get that wrong, you're in trouble. Because sheet becomes and beach becomes and all the lovely things we know that our students do all the time. Yeah. All right, so let's try one more little thing.
But then they're putting the head sound just for the sake of understanding it more, or
I don't understand what that
they
means.
put that head
Yeah, it was
sound.
preceded by H, but you can choose it without.
You can choose to do it without.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You can choose to do it without.
Oh,
So there's an option.
CV combinations are usually, and in fact, that's another good question. Why would you precede it with an H? Why wouldn't you precede it with an L or an R?
Because it's longer, and so therefore the tone.
Okay, why? Right. So that's sort of what I mean. Why wouldn't I do it with an L or an R?
Then there's a transition between the movement.
Good. So if you did it with an R or an L, you'd have this approximant. So you'd have a formant type structure before you had the formant. So what most people do, if you're going to check formant structure of a vowel, you will say the word, and then you will have like two stops and the vowel in the middle, because then you can see what the vowel is doing, right? So if you say the word bib.
So you can do it here.
Oh,
Shihan,
so-
flex, right? Yes. Oops.
Okay.
Right. So if you go right to here.
So if you say the word bib, right, on your spectrogram, what happens to your mouth? What's the articulation? It's closed. So on your spectrogram, this is our spectrogram, you've got nothing there because it's closed, and then what happens? Then what do you get? No, before you get that.
You get the release.
Aspiration. Good, you get the release. So you've got closed, you've got a load of white noise for the thing, And then you've got some nice, clear format structures. And then at the end, what happens here? Nothing. You've got to close again before you get another release, or you don't even get any release at the end. So this way you say, that's my vowel. All right. And that's exactly, you can do the length, you can do the format structure, you can do anything. Whereas if you put other things in front of it, like R's or L's, they have a partial format structure. So then you're saying, where's the end of the L and the beginning of the vowel, right? So you want to pick a sound that doesn't do that on either side. So typically, if that's what you're doing, you're looking at format structure of vowels, you will have people read a list. Say the word bit, say the word ben, say the word, whatever, and that's how you go through fob. Say the word, and that's how you go through all your different vowels. Okay, wait, were we going to try something else? Okay, so this is the last one we're going to try. And this one is... Oh, sorry, my bad. Okay. All right.
He. 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 He.
Ha.
What are you supposed to do here? The sequence. The sequence.
He. He. He.
Ha.
He.
I thought I had to go he, ha.
Yeah, because it's repeating. It's like a bucket.
Yeah, but then I just did he. I tried to do he and it said no.
Yeah.
No, it was he.
He. He. He.
Ha.
No, you have to wait. But you have to wait for the pattern to repeat, and then you go.
Ha.
That's it.
Ha.
Wait.
Ha. 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 Ha.
I got nothing. Okay, if someone else wants to have a go at it, fine. But do you see what they're doing? So they're saying you just keep. I can quite work that one out either. But basically, they're asking you to memorize a string of vowels.
Isn't the Simon said that's a game, right?
Yeah, it's also it's actually taken probably directly from music theory, because that's what they do to you in music exams. They do exactly that.
I don't know, it's completely beyond my skill level, so
It's one of the reasons you're really crap at music.
Yep. Well, that's true.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes. Do you?
So let me then wrap things up. So just as a quick reminder, tomorrow this lecture will be uploaded and the first comprehension review will be available, right? The first comprehension review is due Saturday, okay, by midnight at the latest, because otherwise it's Sunday, right? So it's no longer Saturday. So it's, just answer the questions. It's going to be some questions, some transcription. And then we will then move on with the next, we'll try to return the graded comprehension review by the next class period. I'm not promising that we're going to do that because we only have 3 days to do it, so it may not happen. But hopefully we will. And then after that, we're going to go into phonology, and we'll talk more about this area of the vowel and what does it mean. It will make a lot more sense once we talk about phonology. Okay. Now, please remember that this stuff is essential to understand phonology. If you don't understand the places of articulations, if you cannot do the phonetic alphabet, etc., you will not be able to understand phonology. Okay, so this is crucial for what is going to follow in the rest of the class. Okay, any questions? All right, so then this is, yes?
Transcription, do you want it handwritten?
No, you can do it with the IPA keyboard if you.
Here's what I say though, and I'll do this to you as a favor. On sound systems, you know, unfortunately what's happening is that when it gets transferred sometimes from one computer to another, that Unicode stuff or whatever ends up coming to me as my homework as tiny little boxes.
Yes.
So I have absolutely no idea whether you've got the vowel correctly.
Point well taken. Send the PDF.
So, yeah, there's one, you can either do the type it and then send the bit, or you can put it in, make it a PDF, and then send it.
And even PDF sometimes gets.
Yeah,
no,
so,
image would be the best
you know,
for
yeah.
Well, I mean, a PDF should work.
It should
I mean, in
work,
fact,
yeah.
a Unicode font like Times New Roman should work because supposedly it's there, right? But you know, PDF. If the PDF doesn't work, then yeah, a JPEG. You know, but I'm not sure that the students necessarily know how to generate the JPEG of a Word file.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to turn it into a thing, but it's just like if he's looking at vowels and your vowels are all little boxes, then, you know, you can't see.
It's not going to go well.
Yeah.
If that's the case. And of course, if you have questions, you can email Dr. Nelms if you are in one of the online sections, or me if you are in the face-to-face section. All right. See you next week. Say again?
Homework is submitted on Dropbox?
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.